Anyone else got a favourite? 87. I love to tell the story.
Love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and His glory, of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story because I know it's true. It satisfies my longing as nothing else can do. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story, oh wonderful it seems, that all the golden fancies of all the golden dreams. I love to tell a story, it leads so much to me, and that is just my reason for telling it to me. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and His love.
Third verse, 87.
I love to tell the story, 'tis pleasant to repeat what seems each time I tell it more wonderfully sweet. I love to tell the story, for some have never heard the message of salvation from God's own holy word. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story for those who know it best, seem hungry and thirsting to hear it like the rest. And when it sings of glory, I sing the new song. Will be the old story that I have loved so long. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and His love.
Shall we keep going?
Go in the blood.
78?
39.
78. What's it called? We are nearing home. Amen.
Over the mountains in the promised land lies a holy city built by God's own hand. As a weary footsteps gain the mountain's crest, we can view our homeland of eternal rest. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the dome enter never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. In the rolls of the prophets we have long been told. On the city and the streets of gold. Of Jasper and its mansions fair. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. We soon will enter never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home.
Number 78, third verse.
Those who enter that city are the faithful few, who keep God's commandments, Christ and Jesus too.
Hello.
They will lift their voices through the endless days, and sing songs of gladness and songs of praise. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. Here we soon will enter never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. My brother, my sister, will you meet us there? In that land of sunshine where there'll be no care, except of God's message and to him be true. Then when Jesus cometh, he will call for you. We are nearing home. We are nearing home. See the splendor gleaming from the domes afar. See the glory streaming through the gates ajar. There we soon will enter never more to roam. Hear the angels singing, we are nearing home. We are nearing home.
Thank you for singing so beautifully.
I am. Good morning, everybody. I just want to pray quickly before I share my story. Thank you, God, for giving me this opportunity to share my story. I'm only a mere mortal man, and may this story of my life encourage other people with what they are struggling through in their day-to-day toil in this world that we live in at the end of time. We thank you, and may you speak through me in the words of wisdom. In your name, amen. Good morning, everybody. I'm Neels from Sal, ex-South African, but you'll get the rest of the story soon. I've not grown up a very healthy person, and I'm not come from a long line of many decades of medical education. I'm originally trained as an architect. I've got a master's degree in building information management. I deal with a lot of building high mega projects here in New Zealand. I only the last couple of years become a student of medicine on the right side. I'm going to say that word, the right side. Just busy with my doctoral in naturopathy and PhD in original medicine as per the Bible, not the conventional medicine. And I've got all the other qualifications in the Adventist Health Ministry side as well. I'm a special edition, Cornelius Johannes Jacobus van Zyl, 1975. There's only one of me, otherwise this world will be in a bit of chaos. But it all started with a little baby boy. The world was open to me, and this is my email signature. I'll praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are marvelous, and my soul knows it very well, from Psalm 139, verse 14. My life journey, as I said, I was not the healthiest kid on the block, and I shouldn't be standing here in front of you today. I am here by God's grace and the opportunity that He gave me to be here today. I should not be here. Before I was 6, I was brutally attacked by a dog. My back was open. I couldn't sleep for probably half a year on my back, for my back to recover. From that, the standard vaccinations in South Africa begin. Now I'm going to mention it because it's got a massive effect on my health for the rest of my life. Shortly after that, I developed meningitis, and as you know, meningitis is a very serious condition. It's the acute inflammation of the protective membrane covering your brain and your spinal cord. So there was already a very massive attack on my life, very young, early stage of my life, and it makes you sick. You are a very sick individual. I spent 2 weeks in hospital, and I had 3 injections a day. They used penicillin in those days. I walked away from the hospital. It was so horrible. I packed my little Sarelsia monster, little soft toy. The South Africans know who Sarelsia monster is. And my box with my toys, and I had to go over a busy state highway, and I walked away from hospital. It was so horrible going through that ordeal. I had my tonsils removed the first time. I'm going to mention this because they grew back. And I had severe arsenic poison. I grew up in a mining village. My dad worked on the mines, and they get soil and stuff for free from the mine, not knowing at that stage the stuff was laced with arsenic. Arsenic is a substance used for the processing of gold, and it's in everything around mines. They've got sludge ponds and dams with this stuff in. So what arsenic poisoning does, if you don't understand, it damages your skin. I could literally peel my skin off my hand. I had, on all my lymphatic node points, I had severe rashes. I could peel the skin off myself. It was so bad. Lung problems, bladder problems, kidney and liver disease type stuff. And remember the liver one, it causes a lot of nerve damage, and it causes a lot of circulatory problems in your skin. So, and I'm still sitting with the aftermath of that. You can see all the scars in my face. My elementary school life, that little boy went to school at age 6. Typically a kid goes to school at 7 in South Africa, but I was just a bit of a handful for my mom, and she put me a year earlier. I was always one of the youngest kids in my class, but I came out tops. Unfortunately, because of my busyness, I got put on methamphetamines, and it's something called Ritalin. And I had to go through that for the rest of my school life, not knowing better. So I am a meth addict, where I'm standing here and I'm recovered from that. But it's a class 1 drug in South Africa, and it's legal. I don't know why, but no, we can talk about that another day. I had chronic bronchial problems and chronic sinus problems. My mom was a smoker, so I lived in a smoking house, and it had adverse reactions on my system. The sinus problems, dairy user. I was a dairy addict, cheese and milk, and the problem kept going on. I managed to get through elementary school, but I was very sick. I always had some sort of something wrong with me. My medical file at the doctor's was this thick. And one day he asked me, do you have brothers or sisters? And I said, yes, I've got 2 sisters. I've never seen them because they're never sick. I was the pure one that was always sick. Matthew 10 verse 28, and fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him that which is able to destroy body, both soul and body in hell. So that's a very powerful thing. And through this, we do not need to be discouraged. Through our weaknesses, God strengthens us. So carrying on to high school, this little standard 6 person went to school. The vaccinations went on as the typical regime in South Africa. And I've got a very remarkable incident. Just our standard 8 group, middle of high school, we rolled up our sleeves one day. They came and gave us something. And very shortly after, a lot of our appendixes went. Not just mine, a bunch of us at the same time. And I'm leaving that with you guys, maybe because of that guy there. The chronic bronchial problems continued, the chronic sinus problems continued, and I had my tonsils removed the second time. So explaining why in the 70s they used the snip technique, and they don't remove it like they do the orange peel technique later on. So there was stuff left and they grew back. I had full tonsils, but because of my dairy consumption, they were screaming out, "Stop drinking milk!" And I didn't listen, and my tonsils kept being inflamed, and they kept being inflamed, and my parents got them taken out again. And now knowing what I now know, it was because of my dairy use and the sinus problems I had. I eventually got through high school with all of my medical problems that I had at that time. I still managed to come out 8th in my class academically wise. I was highly decorated with academical, cultural achievements in school. I always joked I was the undercover head boy because I had more colors than the head boy himself, literally, but I never made it to the prefix level or anything like that because I was just a little bit too much of a rebel. So I wasn't the good boy, but yeah, that's a story for another day as well. I eventually got to university. I went into architecture school. That's a lot of stress, not a lot of sleep. I had another dog attack. I almost lost my right hand. This hand that you see in front of you looked like it went through a meat shredder. It was that bad. I thought that was the end of me being, it's your drawing hand. It wasn't computers those days yet. And by God's grace, I have full control over my hand, full nerves, everything is back. For years I didn't have any control, or not control, I didn't have feeling in my hand. We went through family insolvency. That's not fun. Your whole world disappears under you. We lost everything. We lost our family home. It broke up our family. Everybody went into, what do you call it? Just preservation mode. Everybody fended their emotions for themselves. I was in my third year architectural school, and let's say a 3-year course became a 7-year course because of that. Because our finances fell flat, emotionally it broke us, psychologically it put me back, and it took me many years to get through my 4 years of university. And but through all of that, I was still very, very, very active. I was an elite athlete at that stage. I was doing 60-kilometer bike rides, 2-kilometer pool swims, and I would go and rollerblade, and that's on the same day. That's the amount of energy I had. Through all of this, I was in the front line when they gave out energy. And a lot of people know the Energizer Bunny, that little Duracell guy. I could run circles around that guy. I had so much energy, but I had a bad diet. I was a sugar addict, and I am standing in front of you. My second Achilles heel was I'm a recovered sugar addict. In the same breath, because of that habit and drinking Coca-Colas and stuff like that, because that's the typical thing after a race, they give you Coke, and you just start getting a nick for the sugary stuff because they make you feel super good. Not bad, bad comes later. I will explain. But I started getting fillings, my teeth was falling apart, and that's a whole talk by itself, just how bad the dentistry was, and it's hopefully phasing out now. But I had a motorbike accident that I shouldn't have survived. Somebody came out of nowhere, I T-boned them. I hit the bonnet with my shoulder and I fell head first on the other side, luckily with a helmet on. And the first words that I heard is, "Lie still, I'm a doctor." There was a doctor in the traffic, and they assessed me because they saw exactly what happened, and 2 minutes later I was on a brace because the ambulance dispatch was literally 50 meters away from where the accident happened. So within an hour I was in the hospital. I was just crying out, "My leg is broken, my leg is broken." And the guy said, "No, you've broken nothing. You just ripped your shin open." That's all that happened with that bike accident. But it wasn't even a month later. I finished architecture school. I got home. It was my birthday month. I ate chocolate cake and drank cool drinks and everything like that. And my liver started going fast, and I had liver failure. That morning, I still had my 60-kilometer bike ride, and I went swimming and I went rollerblading. And when I got home, I touched the door handle at home, and I collapsed. That was the end of me. Oh, so I thought. But I woke out of the coma. So what happened to me is, it was touched on this morning, your liver stores a lot of fats, but I had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's worse than liver cirrhosis, as your liver has just got no breathing room or whatever. It just goes, you go jaundice, your skin goes yellow, your eyes goes yellow. But I thought I was just picking up a tan. I'm at home for this December holiday, and my wife visited me. She was my girlfriend at that stage. We were not even, she came and visit me, and here I'm in hospital in intensive care. But now I was sick, and I shouldn't have survived it. I am few people that come back from a liver failure. The statistics is 99.9% you die. and I am here by the grace of God. So I've managed to get my degree in architecture. After all of that ordeal, Psalm 103 verse 1 to 4, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases, who redeemeth thy life and from destruction, who crowneth thee from loving kindness and tender mercies. So from 2002, it took me 8 years to recover from if I knew now what I know, should have known then, I could have fixed myself in a month's time. But that was trial and error. The mercury poison happened, kept going. My memory were going. I was pretty much at age middle 20s to 30s with light dementia. That's the symptoms I was having, because I had 11 of these poison factories in my mouth. And I went to a dentistry appointment, one of my biggest molars. There was a whole mercury factory broke, and the doctor didn't know what to do with the cofferdam and the extraction methodology. He just drilled away, and they didn't suction stuff, and I swallowed most of that mercury filling that came out of my mouth. The next day we were in church, and I just started shaking like I was going to die. And fortunately we had doctor friends at church. They just said, go home, drink as much vitamin C as you can, and eat eggs to bind that stuff so it can get out of your system. And I recovered from that. And that same year for my birthday, believe it or not, I paid for getting all my mercury fillings removed in 2 days. I went literally injection 2 to 3 hours sitting with my mouth open and getting all the stuff on the left side removed. The next day I booked in again, and I got injections, and I got the stuff on my right side removed. And I cannot thank that I got on somebody, is a doctor out of Australia that I came across that explained everything nicely, and I came across a doctor. I did his house, and he fixed my teeth. Later. So it was the exchange of services that happened, but man, my Alzheimer's light just disappeared. I got my brains back basically, and it takes a time to get all that mercury out of your system, because mercury loves to go and sit in your brain tissue. It's the biggest fat organ, unless you've got this stuff around here. So we were not Adventists. I grew up in a Sunday church. So in 2007 through DVD ministry from Walter Five, working through the Total Onslaught series. So I've got a PhD in Walter Five. And watching all his health ministry stuff, it was just a no-brainer. And one Friday afternoon, I told my wife, tomorrow we're going to church. She went, what? It's Saturday tomorrow. No, we need to go. That's the right day. And the rest is history. We got baptized in 2007, my wife and myself, in South Africa, a church called Magaliesig, north of Pretoria. And shortly after that, got ordained as a deacon. And then, believe it or not, a year later, we were on a plane and we were off to go and do missionary work in South Korea. That's how quickly the Lord led us, listening to that little voice, because we said we are willing subjects to go and work for you. We rocked up in Korea with 4 suitcases, 2 kids, and not knowing where we were going to sleep that night. It was completely the unknown. I had to give up my architectural practice in South Africa, and I gave away, and everything we owned, and we got on that plane and went into the unknown. South Korea, so we'll quickly show you. We ended up with the recession happening at that stage. Korean government invested a lot internally, so they gave these experiences of being outside of the country, inside the country. So if that confuses you, kids didn't fly out, so they made American villages for them in America, in Korea, and they got foreigners to come and teach there. So we got put into this beautiful facility for the first 2 years. We came out of South Africa in the dead of winter to the dead of summer. We didn't have the right clothing. We just were so unprepared. We bought little T-shirts for the kids for having little dresses until we could get their proper stuff. But yeah, that's how it was an adventure. Just typical city. We visited a lot with the local people. We made friends with Schema and Kelly. Her parents were Adventists, but they were not Adventists. That was very interesting. I dealt a lot with kids. We always had co-teachers, so you had a Korean teacher that could speak the language, and we picked it up quite easily. My wife, before Ilna, with Ilna, and we had a lot of proper snow and proper winters. A typical Korean winter, you talk about minus 37. So it's proper cold. There, we visited Seoul a lot with our church, doing in the main churches in Seoul. We were in the countryside. I visited the DMZ, played tough there with the Korean soldiers. We had military students there. We had Russian students there because Russia was very close to Korea. We visited many families, get the Korean experience. You sit on the ground and you eat on these little low tables, and your plate's not your plate. Everybody eats from everybody's plate. That's how it is. And if you see a chopstick flying past you, you don't just slap it down. They like what you want, and you can take what you like in their plate as well. So that's how you eat there. We got invited, believe it or not, all that people there fitted into a house that was not even bigger than this sanctuary area. You slept like sardines on warm floors. They had underfloor heating. They called them udon heating. And we were given a room, and the grandparents stayed in a room, and the other South African pastor and his family stayed in a room, and the rest of the Korean family slept like sardines in the living room. If you had to go to the toilet, you had to tippy-toe over them, and tippy-toe all the way back. So, and you never stepped on anybody. Then Ilna was born, and Ilse will share the medical experiences there. It's not what you think it is in the Western world. So the hand you see there is my hand snipping her umbilical cord in the operating theater. And there was little Ilna with her little pink feet eventually. So we went to Korea as 4 and we came back as 5. I climbed a lot of mountains. That was one of the highest one at Soraksan. It's the Korean Alp. They compare it to the Korean Alp, 1,700 meters. It's about a 9-hour climb up. It was awesome. You're above the clouds. It was beautiful. A lot of snow, and I did a lot of hiking in the mountains. That day was a typical winter's day, minus 10 outside. It warms up when it snows, and then it cools down again. So snow only happens between 0 and 2 degrees, so that's a nice day in winter. You get snow down to the beach, so going to the beach, you dress up. My car is underneath there somewhere. One night it snowed 1.2 meters overnight. So we had serious snow there. That was just Ilse sticking her nose out. It's too cold for me to come out. So we were a couple of foreign teachers. It was also South African friends of us. They've been there about 12 years. They were fluent in Korean by that time. And we had Filipino teachers as well. And then every foreign teacher has a co-teacher that teaches with them. I spend a lot of time with the little ones, but unfortunately my patience ran out with little kids. At the end of Korea, I did a tour around on my bicycle when my energy came back. So I was on my bicycle, and when it was getting too warm, I would hop on the train and then go to the next plane. And then, so I just traveled through Korea. I'm going to single this family, the Coe family. From everything we know, we've planted a lot of seeds in the time we were there. But this was a family that stood out. Their daughter was in my science, English, and math class. And one Sabbath, out of the blue one day, the dad phones me, and his English is bad. And he said, we want to come to church with you. They were Buddhists. And I said, yes. I don't know how to explain stuff because I didn't know the street names. But I did come to our apartments because we were living in a very well-known area where you couldn't miss our apartment. We were living on a hill, the Lotte apartments. And I said, come there and you can drive with us to church. And they started coming to church with us every Sabbath. And we were in New Zealand for about 3 years when we got an email. The whole family got baptized into the Adventist church. So that's only one case where we knew what we did. We saw the results of that. But we will see in heaven the other seeds we planted, we believe. So September 2011, I landed in New Zealand with $300 in my pocket. I had nothing. We came from a medical of the missionary background. We had enough money to send Ilse and the kids back to South Africa. I asked the school to revert my ticket to South Africa to New Zealand. Came to look for work. There was a friend that I worked with 9 years before that was willing to come and pick me up at the airport and house me. I was sleeping in their living room. And I said $300 in my pocket. God blessed me. I went to church. The church started helping me. And I got a job very quickly with my qualifications here in New Zealand. And January of 2012, we managed to get Ilse and the kids over. And we just, we had to move into a moldy house. Moldy houses are very dangerous, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I had another motorbike accident where I should not have walked away. I literally, the guy didn't check his blind spot. He hit me, and I hit 3 other cars on my way down. And I blacked out at the first point of impact. The people helped me up, and I was sitting there. The St. John's ambulance came, and they asked, where's the guy we needed to take away in the body bag? He's sitting there. By God's grace, I survived another motorbike accident. Later that year, I only got a contract work, so we couldn't go through because we were here for the long run, becoming citizens we are now. But I had opportunity in Adelaide, Brisbane, and Christchurch. Literally, you had A, B, or C. Pick the one. But God opened the door for Christchurch, and we packed everything we owned into a little U-Safe big double-axle trailer, and the Pajero we had at that time. It was inorganics that week, so the stuff that didn't fit into the trailer we left on the sidewalk, literally. And we drove down to Christchurch into the unknown as well. It was an unbelievable experience. So from 2014 to 20, my health journey just roughly started. I became a CHIP facilitator down in Christchurch, but nothing came from that. In 2014, I lost my mother from Alzheimer's and emphysema. The smoking got to her. and she was living off prescription medication. She had a bad diet. She was drinking sodas. At a stage, she had a tumor as big as a rugby ball from drinking fizzy drinks, and she was living by herself, and she didn't look after herself, and everything just caught up to her. I earnestly started in 2016 with my health education. I started doing chip facilitating with Pastor Gordon when we were down in Island Church in the South Island. I practiced what I preach. I was pre-diabetic at that time. I was wearing glasses and a bit of overweight, and I lost 15 kilograms in the chip program. I managed to reverse my eyes, because the first sign of diabetes is your eyes are starting to go. And I managed to reverse that, where I could get my restriction lifted off my license at that time, and I lost weight, and I feel super for that. I did a master's degree in the building information modeling at management at that time. And then just shortly after that, I had a massive lung infection. Now, if people don't know what biosludging is that green effluents from the dairy farms they spray back on the fields. That stuff is dangerous, toxic stuff. I just roughly inhaled the spray of that, and within 24 hours, I had the most severe lung infection. The doctors was scratching their heads. What's wrong? We went to we were at a work function that Saturday afternoon, and I started feeling sick like death, and I felt that feeling before. And that happened when I had my mercury poisoning, and I said, something's wrong, Ilse. We need to get home. We got home, and it got worse and worse. That night I ended up at intensive care. They didn't know what to do, because they were listening to my lungs, and my fever was just spiking. And at pure desperateness, this lady doctor just sent me for an x-ray. And when the thing came back, she just almost flipped backwards. She said, take off your shirt again, I need to listen, because you look like you've got pneumonia, but you don't sound like you've got pneumonia, because pneumonia's got a popping sound when you listen with a stethoscope, but my lungs were full of infection. And they injected me stuff there, and they sent me home, and I was in and out of consciousness with delirium and stuff, because my fever was so high, and I ended up the next day back in the hospital. And they keep giving me stuff, and the stuff didn't help. I didn't know about natural remedies and stuff at that stage. And for the next week and a half, because they just keep sending you home, because they don't know what they're doing. And at a point, I was just in and out of consciousness, and a week later, I end up at the doctor again. They put me back in intensive care this time, and they give me something, but I literally walked out 24 hours later, okay. And then the coughing to get the stuff out of my lungs, I had to hold my head, because it felt like my head was going to explode. Very bad. Then I got hit by cancer. But that's not the end of it. My daughter, and I'll come to that a little bit later, she had severe optic neurosis from us moving from the South Island to the North Island, and she was blind for a couple of months. And that happened at the same time I had my issues. So you don't get hit, you get hit hard when it hits you. So I'll come back to that one, but stress, and it was mentioned this morning, I cannot overemphasize the importance of magnesium. Guys, listen to that talk, get your magnesium stuff right, because stress eats magnesium, and stress kills you. It almost killed me twice, because I had cancer twice. I lost my father in beginning January, just before all the COVID lockdowns happened, but he died from a heart attack at age 70, but from his beer, whiskey, and braai. A lot of South Africans understand that meat eating is not healthy, people. All those other beverages is not healthy. If you know of people doing that stuff, just with loving kindness, share with them. We want you for a long time. Don't do that stuff. But that's not the end of our. With COVID, from December 2020 to May 2021, our life was. This is where we ended up. We ended up under a tree. We had to move out of our house. We lost everything. What? Who's that guy? No, we lived in tents. That was us. That was our little tent village. We were making food. The water was ankle deep sometimes in the summer with all the rain. We met beautiful people on our way that brought watermelon. That's why I said watermelon. I love watermelon. And Elaine and what's his name? Grant, lovely people from the Whakatane area. He grew his watermelon himself out of his garden, and their house was probably half an hour from where we were camping. He went to his house especially to go and get watermelon for us. And then we ended up in the South Waikato next to a river, because this was you didn't have to pay for camping there. Literally, there was hot showers and there was flush toilets. And we lived there for many weeks. And that was us at night. We met awesome people. Fraser and his dog. His one dog died. He had a tumor. We helped him bury it. I helped do chiropractics on him. One morning he came out of his truck walking like this. His back slipped out. I put him on a picnic bench and I put his back in for him. But through all of this, God provided these beautiful pictures every day for us. Morning sunsets and morning sunrises. Fortunately, we went to the Mata church a little bit, because it was just within reaching distance. And what I want to say, when you're in that system doesn't work. We were on winds. You barely get enough to get through a week. There's no promises of housing or whatever. You get put on a waiting list and they'll help you when they think they want to help you. There's a very well-known doctor. He asked me not to say who he is, but they opened up their house. They bought the old hotel in town called the Lady Bowen. We were there helping them with renovations, and I took care of the gardens and stuff while I was still looking for work, because it was in that time when nobody was appointing anybody, or you just couldn't get work. So we were down in the dumps, so deep in debt, and everything happened. We were at the lowest of the lowest we could ever be, financially, morally, spiritually. Our health was just coming back up. We were down in the dumps. So we were cleaning houses, building, painting, renovating, and this one from Ministry of Healing, Chapter 9, self-supporting missionary workers. In all our associations, we should remember that in the experiences of others, there are chapters sealed for mortal sight. On the pages of memory are sad histories that are sacredly guarded from curious eyes. They stand restricted, long, hard battles with trying circumstances, perhaps troubles in the home life, the day-to-day, weaken courage, confidence, and faith. Those who are fighting the battle of life at great odds may be strengthened and encouraged by little attentions that cost only a loving effort. To such, the strong, helpful grasp of the hand by true friends is worthy more than gold or silver. Words of kindness are welcome as a smile of angels. There are multitudes struggling with poverty, compelled to labor hard for small wages, and able to secure but the barest necessities of life, toils and deprivation, who no hope for better things, make their burden very heavy. While pain and sickness are added, the burden is almost insupportable. Careworn and oppressed, they know not where to turn for relief. Sympathize with them in their trials, their heartaches, their disappointments. This will open the way for you to help them. Speak to them of God's promise. Pray with them and for them. Inspire them with hope. We were there. We know what it is all about. So, in that same time, we said, we lost everything. We even had to put our dog up for adoption. We had a pet dog because we knew we were going into. We lost Ilse's brother. He was obese, the typical. Her father and mother in a very short amount of time. And if you want to understand a little bit more about the people on that side, look about the opioid epidemic, and it's very big in New Zealand and in the Western world in general. Yeah, we talked about all of this. God blessed us. We finally got a nice country home. We got out of the city, and He placed us exactly between Auckland, Doggerville and Whangarei. We tried with our utmost strength to find something in Doggerville because the health ministry team is very strong there, but God said, no, you're going to sit here in the middle because you need to support all these other communities. And I'm busy with my formal medical missionary education, so I'm busy with my doctoral and my PhD in original medicine, like I mentioned. So 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, and He said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, and my strength is made perfect in weakness. And this is the whole story of the Bible. He used the weakest, He didn't use the strongest. He used the little boy, David. He uses the lame and the sick, because through them it glorifies His name. Most gladly, therefore, I will gather and glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. I just want to share a few case studies in my life. I had a colleague that's father had a heart attack in India. She jumped on the plane, got to him. This is what the doctors gave her. She took a photo, she WhatsApped it back to me. If you can see, there's 100% blockage in one of those arteries, and we're sitting there with 60, 80. He was a bypass candidate and stents. He said, I don't want to be cut open. I said, okay, I'm going to help as best I can. And 10 months later, he flew to New Zealand to come and thank me. And that's with the little bit of knowledge I had. So anything is better than nothing. And we visited them. And this is my daughter. She was 16 at that time, acute sinusitis, optic neurosis. Now, for you to understand what optic neurosis, who's burned their fingers with flame, you know how painful that is. She had that pain 24/7 in her brain. It's one of the live nerves is your optic nerve. We got her inflammation under control. She was on 70,000 international units of vitamin D. We were on therapeutic levels of supplementation to just control her pain and symptoms she was having at that stage. Through all of this, she had 10% sight. She had 0 sight. It was black on her left side, and she had 10% sight. If you look through a little straw, that's the sight she had left. She still did this stuff. She went to pottery class. She was with happy disposition, and she glorified God with the talent she got. It didn't let her, let her down. And that's not ours. It was a friend, but that was the family at that time. So everything is on record at Waikato Hospital. Yeah, at the point the doctors just kept doing this. We don't know what to do. But it took us going through, and remember, I had my cancer at the same time. We went through a massive detox program, and 17 days into that program, her sight came back. Not her sight came back. And we've got all the records at Specsavers. Every time she goes to the optometrist, her sight just gets better and better and better. And she had eagle vision. That's better than 20/20 vision. She could see stuff before we could see it. She said, "Oh, Dad, there's an airplane." I said, "What, that speck in the sky?" "Yep, that's the airplane. It's New Zealand. It's the black and white one." And so, no, she was. So, how I approach and my health coaching, we use behavior as medicine, nutrition as medicine, fitness as medicine, mental health and mind, body as medicine. And we had to make sense of medical research and to navigate this DHB system. And we were taught by doctors that's seen the light. And so, the ministry of healing. Christ's life is more than many take to be. It does not consist wholly of gentleness, patience, meekness, and kindness. These graces are essential, but there is need also of courage, force, energy, and perseverance. The path that Christ marks out is a narrow, self-denying path. To enter that path and press on through difficulties and discouragement requires men who are more than weaklings. But remember, it's not our strength, it's His strength through us. Men of stamina are wanted, men who will not wait to have their way soothed and every obstacle removed. Men who will inspire, will fresh zeal and flagging efforts of desperate workers, men whose hearts are warm with Christian love and whose hands are stronger to do their master's work. Remember, we are only passing through. We need to save as many souls as we can. Some who engage in missionary service are weak, nerveless, spiritless, easily discouraged. They lack push. They have not these positive traits of character that give power to do something, the spirit and energy that kindles enthusiasm. Those who would win success must be courageous and hopeful. Those should cultivate not only a passive but an active virtues. While they are to give the soft answer that turns wrath away, they must possess the courage of a hero to resist evil. With the charity that endures all things, they need to the force of character that will make their influences a positive power. Some have a firmness of character. Their plans and purposes have no definite form of consistency. They are but little practical use to the world. This weakness, indecision, and ineffectiveness should be overcome. There is a true there is a true Christian character and indomitable that cannot be molded or subdued by adverse circumstances. We must have moral backbone and integrity that cannot be faltered, bribed, or terrifying. God desires us to make use of every opportunity, so securing and preparation for His work. He expects us to put all our energies into its performance and keep our hearts alive to its sacredness and its fearful responsibilities. Many who are qualified to do excellent work accomplish little because they attempt little. Thousands pass through life as if they had no great object for which to live, no high standard to reach. One reason for this is the low estimate which they place upon themselves. Christ paid an infinite price for us, and according to the price paid, He desires us to value ourselves. Be not satisfied with reaching a low standard, but we are not what we might be or what it is God's will that we should be. God has given us reasoning power not to remain inactive or to be perverse to earthly and sordid pursuits, but that they may be developed to the utmost, refined, sanctified, ennobled, and used in advancing the interests of His kingdom. None should consent to be mere machines run by another man's mind. God has given us ability to think and to act, and it is by acting with carefulness, looking to Him for wisdom, that we will become capable of bearing burdens. Stand in your God-given personality. Be not other person's shadow. Expect that the Lord will work in and by and through you. Never think that you have learned enough and that you may now relax your efforts, especially in this time. The cultivated mind is measured of a man. Your education should continue during your lifetime. Every day you should be learning and putting to practical use the knowledge gained. Remember that in whatever position you may serve, you are revealing motive, developing character. Whatever your work, do it with exactness, with diligence. Overcome the inclination to seek an easy task. The same spirit and principles that one bring into the daily labor will be brought into the whole life. Those who desire a fixed amount to do and a fixed salary, and who wish to prove an exact fit without the troubles of adaptation or training, are not the one who God calls to work in His case. Those who study how to give as little as possible in their physical, mental, and moral powers are not the workers upon whom He can pour out abundant blessings. Their example is contagious. Thank you. Self-interest is the ruling motive. Those who need to be watched and who work only as every duty is specified to them are not the one who will be pronounced good and faithful. Workers are needed who manifest energy, integrity, diligence, those who are willing to do anything that needs to be done. Thank you for your time. Let's just pray with this closing. Thank you, God, for this message that I could share. May the seeds go out and encourage people and see that this life is a blessing and a gift that we have every day that we are here to work for you. We thank you for your many blessings through our lifetime, and may you bless this people in this camp going further. We pray that in your name. Amen. There's my contact details.